Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and sorry for the technical difficulties. I think we're all good to go. So a couple of logistics before we get started. First, can I please have folks chat into the question bar to let me know if you can hear my audio okay and see the slides up on the screen? Excellent, perfect, thank you all. All right, so we are going to get started today with our webinar on EPA tools and resources. Really excited to be joined by Jose Zambrana and Laura Bloch from the EPA. Jose is a senior science advisor with the EPA, and Laura is the Region 9 Sustainability Advisor. They were kind enough to do a webinar on EPA tools and resources for us last year, giving a little bit of an overview of what's available at the federal level and how it might be applicable to your projects. Fellows last year really found it to be a very helpful opportunity to learn more about these tools, ask questions about how to use them, how to apply them in your communities. So we're really excited to have both Jose and Laura back again this year to do this webinar for you all. So I'm going to pass it over to them, and they're going to both give you a little bit more of an introduction to themselves and what they do at the EPA. As the webinar goes on, please send me any questions that you have. Mackenzie Bolger is actually going to be facilitating the Q&A at the end of the webinar, but both of us will be getting your questions as they come through. So after the webinar, we'll be sharing links to these resources with you all. But please do send those questions along. Really excited for this conversation today. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jose and Laura to get us started.
Thank you so much. Laura, you can go first.
Okay, I am Laura Bloch, and thank you for having us to talk with you today. I'm the Sustainability Advisor for EPA Region 9. And Jose and I have been working on a variety of different tools through university settings. I'm going to talk just briefly a little bit about that today, as Jose will go on and provide more detail. I was a tool advisor through our Office of Research and Development for a couple of years, and have been working diligently within the region and with my colleagues across the nation on integrating sustainability into the work that we do. Jose.
And I'm Jose Zambrana. I've been at EPA just over 8 years. My background is in chemistry. I work for the National Exposure Research Laboratory, which is a lab of the Office of Research and Development. We're a national lab headquartered in North Carolina with sites around the country. And I work out of Los Angeles. And I focus on a number of sustainability issues, kind of a broad suite of challenges. So we were able to speak with the cohort last year, and we're honored to be able to speak with you this year as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it back to Laura.
All right. So let's go for the first slide. You're gonna drive, Jose, yeah?
I'll drive.
Excellent. Okay, so EPA's mission and our challenge. I'm sure no one here on the phone is surprised to find out that we have challenges at the US EPA, and we've actually had for a while. They're just getting a little more intense lately. But our mission and our goal is to protect human health and the environment. And we address the challenges of those resources that are going down by leveraging our strengths in order to achieve our mission. And one way that we do that is through outreach such as this, providing education opportunities and providing convening opportunities. So let's go to the next slide. So how do we leverage our strengths? We are committed to improving health and sustainability and resilience, recognizing that it's not just environmental, but you have to look at the whole system, the economics of it, and the equity issues. And we realized that we needed to look at more creative solutions for partnerships and recognize the unique position of universities to partner with surrounding communities. And then we wanted to catalyze and leverage a particular model that we found for campus community partnerships that's transferable, adaptable, and sustainable. It's called Educational Partnerships for Innovation in Communities. And we have a three-minute little video that Jose has ready to go, I hope. Want to play that?
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm going to pull it up.
Okay.
And,
so while Jose's pulling
this...
that up, oh, there it goes. Okay.
Cities are always looking for ways to improve, whether that's by increasing quality of life or reaching economic, social, or environmental goals. Yet, at a local level, decisions are often hard. City staff often lack the capacity, time, knowledge, or political space to make changes in society based on these demands. So how can the city get knowledge and practice, facilitate positive discussions for change, and lead in bold and positive ways? It turns out that with cities lack diversity, cities have a tremendous amount of creativity and desire to make change. They're learning best practices, the latest theories, and are hungry to find ways to translate that knowledge and practice. They can facilitate conversations in the community that are less threatening, more productive, and they have a lot of time. Many university departments already do work related to cities, subject to planning, architecture, geography, law, business, journalism, landscape architecture, economics, engineering, and public administration, just to name a few. The trick is to match the city and its needs with the university and its resources, while working within the administrative structure of both, adding value to all and engaging at a scale that actually improves the outcomes of cities and universities. How does the city access students and faculty? How do instructors know what projects they actually want help with? And who has the time to coordinate any of them and ensure that the work is real work? That's what we do. Think of our model as a framework that solves the university community partnership puzzle. It fits the complicated structure of city governments and universities need together. There are two keys to the match. First, a coordinator within the university and a coordinator at the city work closely together on every aspect of the partnership. Their job is to make it easy for individual professors and individual city staff members to plug into the partnership. Second, those individual instructors and staff co-develop the scope of work that ensures the work produced advances the city's plan for the year, while also meeting the educational needs of individual students. This two-tiered relationship structure is key in raising the level. It provides quality control, ensures the projects are real, and allows busy faculty and city staff to engage easily in a partnership that provides tremendous value to their existing work responsibilities. Our model empowers cities and universities to create and change, train the next generation workforce in innovative ways, and advances real efforts to improve quality of life throughout the country and potentially around the world.
Thanks, Jose. So one of the things that I'm hoping to happen is to encourage the connection of the fellows with local EPIC programs, and that's something that Jose and I can help make connections. I know that you each have specific projects that you're working on, and tapping into EPIC programs might help in that, especially in use of EPA decision support tools to address issues that are priorities at the local level. So many of these projects align with EPA priorities and could benefit from the use of EPA-developed decision support tools. And just as an introduction to Jose taking on the next several slides, EPA focuses on science-based tools to support our mission. So we're trying to leverage the convening and the partnership and the science-based tools through universities and through partnerships with CivicSpark Fellows. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jose.
Thanks, Laura. So my office in particular, the Office of Research and Development provides a scientific foundation for the agency. Laura is part of the regional offices, which implements the laws and interfaces with the states. And then the program offices, which are based in Washington, D.C., really develop the policies focused on the main media of pollution in air, water, waste, and chemicals. One of the things that probably you may be faced with in your projects is needing access to information for good decision making. communities are faced with challenges all the time. Where do we put a road? What should we do about housing? All of these issues that interact with the environment. And we need access to good information so that we can make good decisions for the people who live in our communities. So our goal in the Office of Research and Development is to be able to provide some resources that can help with those kinds of challenges. We focus on 6 main areas, and we have resources in each of these, starting with air and energy, going on to chemicals, looking at communities, which includes ecosystem services, which I'm going to cover, dealing with materials management and human health. We do risk assessment. That's a major part of what the agency does on chemicals. We actually also look at homeland security issues about how do we build resilience, how do we do cleanup from disasters. And then, of course, looking at water. How do we have a more sustainable water supply and in terms of keeping our water clean. So we have different tools from these different programs, and my goal today is just to introduce you to a couple of them, just kind of to whet your appetite. And if any of these interest you, please do follow up with me, or if there are ones that you're particularly interested in and don't see here, it would be great to know what you need so that I can go back to our scientists to put plans in for trying to develop tools that can be useful. I'm going to start with the National Stormwater Calculator, and we're doing lots of little videos today. So let me show you a little video on this really cool tool. So give me 1 second.
It picks up pollutants like fertilizers, oil, and pet waste, traveling through sewage systems into our rivers and waterways. That's the water we drink and play in. Green roofs, trees, rain barrels, and permeable pavements capture the rainwater, storing it for use later on, or filtering it back into the ground. You can help prevent problems with stormwater runoff. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Stormwater Calculator helps you balance land development and landscaping with green infrastructure. Based on the local soil conditions, topography, and rainfall records, the desktop tool estimates annual rainfall and runoff from a specific site. Whether you're an urban planner, developer, landscaper, or even a homeowner, this tool helps you plan your project so you can include the right amount of green features. Help prevent pollution by controlling stormwater runoff. It's one of the greatest threats to clean water in America today.
Okay, so I'm going to continue. Actually, I'm going to show you a little bit of a stormwater calculator. It used to be downloadable software, but we just updated it with a mobile application. And so you can access it via your computer with a web browser, or you can even use your phone to try it. And let me just show you a little bit about how it works. So these are on the left here, these little icons, and we're going to just step through them one at a time, starting at the top. And we're going to pick an address. So let's see, I'm just going to pick Irvine. I think it's going to pick the center of town. So see, it pulls up a site, Civic Center Plaza. And we're going to look at a 2-acre plot. So you put in 2. And so this is sort of our system of that we're going to analyze. And then what it's going to do is it's going to retrieve information about the soils. So what's really critical here, and I mean, this is a major problem throughout the country, but here in California certainly as well, is all of the pollutants are picked up after it rains and sends it essentially to the ocean. And here in LA, you see that just even the Los Angeles River is channelized to send all the pollution right to the ocean. So green infrastructure, a lot of communities are really trying to find ways to disconnect the rain from that pollution and try to capture it for reuse or particularly for recharge into our aquifers. So this tool is really useful to explore different kinds of ways to do that. So it's going to pull the soil type from a database, which is important to how much the water infiltrates. It's going to give you this little color scheme. And so it has a moderate amount of runoff. And then you step to the next one is going to look at the drainage amount. This is a really key number in terms of how much it can drain inches per hour. Based on this color, it's going to be between 0.01 and 0.1. A lot of actually local governments actually know this information for their soils to a very careful degree. So you might actually know that for your community in a particular area, say it's 0.04. Topography is a major factor in terms of runoff. So it's going to pull topographical information, and it's yellow. So this is a fairly flat area in this part of Irvine. And then it's going to pull the precipitation from a precipitation gauge somewhere nearby. So we can choose, it's going to choose the one that's closest, but you can always choose a rain gauge in a different area that is more closer to the area that you're looking at. So it's gathering that information. It has a module in here that allows you to look at climate change. It does some downscaling from some of the IPCC models and allows you to do some forecasting based on some of those different scenarios. For now, I'm just going to leave it to no change because we're going to form a baseline. This is the most critical one, is in land cover. It's really the impervious surface. That's the big problem here. And so we're going to look at the site and we're going to calculate or estimate how much of it is in these different categories. This site is a building, so it is essentially 100% impervious. So I'm going to say there's no forest, no meadow. I guess there's a little bit over here. So maybe we'll say 1%. There's no desert here, so 98% is impervious. So this would be a great candidate for some kind of low impact development. These are the different kinds of low impact development options. And you can always click on one of these and it'll tell you a little bit about what it is, how to size it. This tool is great for anything between 1 and 12 acres. So this is an example of a rain garden. There's examples of rain harvesting, green roofs, street plantings, infiltration basements, permeable pavement. For now, I'm going to set a baseline, so I'm not going to add in any controls, and then we'll come back and just change one of these. There is a module in here that tries to estimate potential project costs. So that's something that you can use. I'm going to skip that for now. And then the last step is to actually calculate, and it actually uses a very fancy model called the stormwater management model to run essentially what's the runoff that's going to occur at this site. And so if we click the refresh results, it's actually going to ping that, that system and run it. It takes a little bit, but what it's going to do is provide us with a sense of what's the runoff that's happening there on an annual basis, how much is being captured, how much is not being captured, and that's going to become our baseline. And then we can go back and add in, say, a green roof, and then we rerun the simulation, and then it will show you the difference in terms of how much is captured versus how much was running off before. And that's really the power of it, and it allows you to screen different options. It's a great tool to explore possibilities, to test hypotheses, and sort of screen possibilities for different sites. And then once you have those, you can then turn to hydrologists and engineers to do a more careful site assessment. But I think this is a really great tool that people can use to get a sense of what's possible. They said actually the model it uses is pretty robust, so it does take a little bit of time to generate those results. So while it does that, and we'll come back to it when it's finished, I want to preview a related tool, and that's called the Green Infrastructure Wizard. And it's related as in terms of what are some resources. There's so much information out there about green infrastructure, these kinds of low impact development tools, that it can be overwhelming. So one of the things that we did is to collate all that information into a really nice user interface to actually search through that information so that if you're looking for something specific, it's easy to find. And so we have two wizards. One is called the Green Infrastructure Wizard, and the other is the Materials Management Wizard. And I'll use the Materials Management Wizard to give you a sense of how it works. But essentially, you go in and you can either click the quick links, which gets you to some quick answers, or explore, which allows you to do just that. We'll actually start there and sort of guide you through a series of questions, kind of like a TurboTax kind of interface. You can put in what kinds of materials are you interested in, what are your objectives, or do a keyword search. Let's click, for example, on what are your objectives. Let's say we want to do a composting project with our local government, and also look at some of our waste management challenges. What it's then going to do is it's going to pull from an entire database of all of EPA's official resources on these topics, and then we'll pull them out and offer them to you. So if I click show results, it's then going to give me that there's 79 resources that could be available, and it's going to give you more information on what the resource is, a link to its where it's located, give you a sense of what kind of resource it is. Is it a publication? Is it a video? Is it some kind of fact sheet or website? And so now, at least now very quickly, you've been able to get 79 resources to look at that are related to that. There are case studies in here and things of that nature. So these two wizards, Green Infrastructure, Materials Management, are two really great, easy tools if you're doing some research. Okay, we're going to go back to our calculator, which of course I ran earlier today and went just fine. And when I'm demoing it, it's going to be difficult. So we will, let me just do one more thing. Sorry about that, folks. Let me just try stepping through it one more time. Actually, while I bring that up, I can pause here if there are any questions.
Hi, this is Mackenzie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. It looks like there are a few questions, but not necessarily related to what you were just discussing. So if you want to keep going, that's fine, or I can ask the question that came in.
You can ask, and as I step through this, I'll multitask.
Okay. Well, the question that came in is, if you can discuss this, how has the new administration affected the work of the EPA and the work that you do from your point of view?
Oh, that's always a fun one. I get that as I travel around and talk to people from around, particularly our state. And thank you for that. You know, there's a new administration every 4 years, or sometimes it's 8, and they set the priorities, and we try to follow them. So actually the agency just released its new strategic plan, and if you're interested in the direction of the EPA as it really is going, I would encourage you to take a look at that. My work as a scientist is to always focus on what are the scientific needs to ensure that our decisions are the best that they can be. And so I do my best to follow those priorities and do the best job that I can. I don't know if that's a very satisfactory answer, but that's my stab at it. Laura may have her own take on it.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge, and it's probably what you think it is. Yeah. So vote. That's all I can say. Get all your friends to vote.
Thank you both.
Is there another? Sure. Is there another question while this runs the simulation one more time?
I guess, can you talk about what else your work entails with the EPA beyond working on these resources that you're sharing with us? What other areas are you focusing on? Sure.
One of the most actually pretty interesting is turf fields. So there are synthetic turf fields throughout California, throughout the country. If you watch the Super Bowl, you'll see little puffs of black, seeming like smoke that may pop up. And so there were some concerns from some stakeholders about whether people playing on these fields could be of concern for exposures to chemicals that may be in recycled tires. And so actually in California, I think there's an incentive to recycle tires. And so they're collated in these plants, and then they sort of break them up into little pieces, and they're used in all different kinds of things. And one of them is to put them on playing fields. So part of my job is a big scientific study that we're doing. Actually, the state of California is doing its own study as well, and to look at what's in that recycled tire crumb, it's called. What are the chemicals in there? And then we're looking at how do people play on fields? How could they be exposed to any potential chemicals through inhalation, by breathing it in, by getting it on their skin, by ingesting it. Actually, the Consumer Product Safety Commission is actually doing a corollary study focusing on children and playground surfaces. So it's kind of interesting to try to really advance the science and our understanding of these issues. And there are communities that are struggling with how to be sustainable in this regards. And it's important to have parks for people's health and in terms of their recreation. And they're also trying to do trade-offs, because if you have a grass field, you also have to water it. You have to put pesticides on it. So trying to understand the science behind these things so that communities can really make their best decisions. And they struggle. There are places that are afraid now to install these fields, but they lack information to really make that full decision. So that's just an example of the kind of stuff I worked on. And Laura may have another of her own.
I'm going to let you keep going.
Okay. Well, this is hung up, unfortunately, so I guess there's a little egg on my face on this, but I will come back to it just in case it finishes the simulation. We'll move on to the next tool. And actually, this module, this online version, is new, so it may still have a bug or two, but hopefully it'll clear itself up. I want to go on to the EnviroAtlas, which has been around for a couple of years and is an amazing tool. So I have another little video that I'll show you about that. So just hold on a second.
Ecosystems are intertwined with our health and well-being, our economy, and our security. Ecosystems provide many benefits, like clean air and clean water. They protect us from severe weather, like hurricanes and floods. Ecosystems also provide places for people to get outdoors and enjoy nature, habitat for plants, fish, and wildlife, and materials to produce our food, clothing, shelter, and pharmaceuticals. The decisions we make individually and collectively can affect ecosystems and their ability to provide these goods and services. Though the benefits of ecosystems are critically important to human well-being, they are often overlooked and taken for granted, mainly due to lack of information. To help fill this information gap, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and its partners developed EnviroAtlas. This interactive web application gives users information about ecosystems, benefits they provide, and factors that may affect them. EnviroAtlas contains tools and resources that allow users to understand the implications of planning and policy decisions and their impact on our fragile ecosystems. The easy-to-use EnviroAtlas interactive map brings together national, regional, state, and local geospatial data and analysis tools that anyone can access. Using EnviroAtlas, staff from all levels of government, environmental and public health professionals, researchers, and educators can access, view, and analyze diverse information to better understand how to conserve, restore, and sustain ecosystems. For example, regional planners could use EnviroAtlas to examine proposed high-speed rail line routes, see the potential effects on threatened and endangered species or habitats along the proposed routes, while gauging the merits of a new rail station in a specific community. EPA is providing EnviroAtlas to help people make informed decisions that will protect the places where we live, learn, work, and play for years to come. EnviroAtlas, connecting people, human health, ecosystems, and the economy.
Okay, at least our videos work well. So this really gave you a sense of talking about ecosystem services and what they are. And ecosystem services are really nature's benefits to provide us. So what we've done is mapped those services throughout the entire country, which is pretty amazing. And the EnviroAtlas map allows you to see those. And actually, let me switch to the few slides just to give you a little background, and then I'll show it to you. Okay, so let me skip the materials. We're on to this one. So these are the categories that we've put together in terms of all of nature's benefits for air, water, biodiversity, food, fuel, natural hazard, mitigation, climate stabilization, recreation, culture, and aesthetics. And you can really note that all of these issues are things that communities and our parks struggle with here in our state. Air, certainly, we've gotten better, but an ongoing challenge. Water, particularly with the sustainability of our water resources. Biodiversity, particularly a challenge in the desert areas. Food and fuel, this is even more complicated, as we've seen with issues of fires. Natural hazard mitigation, certainly, and we think of mudslides, things like that. Do we have the ecosystem services in place to help our communities be resilient to these kinds of events? Climate stabilization, clearly an ongoing challenge, and recreation, culture, aesthetics. So it actually includes over 400 data layers that we've taken across the whole country. We've mapped those to a 30-meter resolution. And so this is an incredible resource that is available on the web, and you can download the information. You can upload your own data layers and overlay them. So it's a pretty amazing tool. It's based on classifying land covers and to sort of see what's on the land and to put it into classifications of water. Is it herbaceous? Is it plant material? Is it impervious? And so you see this little picture sort of takes this picture from a satellite and then converts it into what those classifications are. And the 30 meter on the lower right is what we have for the entire country. And then for a number of communities throughout the country, we've been able to map this to a 1 meter resolution, which is pretty amazing. And in California, we've done this for Fresno, the city of Fresno, and we're completing the work for San Diego County and LA County. And we're looking for ways to expand our initiative and to do more areas more quickly, and are looking for people to collaborate with to do that. So the kind of information that's available to you from doing this analysis, for example, could be access to parks. So this map is going to show in terms of where people live and how close they may live to a park entrance. And so it's able to provide census data on top of these ecosystem service data, and give us kind of a heat map of in terms of where people live and how far they may be from a park entrance. So if a community, for example, was struggling with where is really the best place to put parks, and I know the city of Anaheim was looking at this question, and other places, how do we target the best areas, and what are we trying to achieve? So perhaps we want to provide parks to serve people in terms of the community who are underserved, or to focus in terms of children or the elderly. So we're able to use this kind of analysis to, for example, lay over these census information. So this gives you an example of the population that does not live within 500 meters of a park entrance. Those are the colors by census block. And then overlaid is a population that's over 70 years old. So with the larger circle means that there's an older demographic there. So if your goal was to really focus on the retired community or something like that, then you could find where may be some good places to focus. And I actually wanted to show you this example. So the city of Fresno is able to use these tools and this information to better target where to put parks, and actually they were able to get grants now to actually build those using the information that we provided. Another really neat thing in EnvirAtlas is called the EcoHealth browser. One of the things that we understand intuitively but don't always express scientifically is that the better is our environment, the better is our health. And there's been a lot of scientific studies that really relate those two things together. And so the EcoHealth browser is an effort to compile all the scientific data behind the connections between ecosystems, their health, and human health. And so it's a great tool for anyone, really, for students, professors, for local government staff, to if they're trying, if the community needs more information or to understand what decisions are being made, you can turn to this, pull up some data, and really demonstrate to people that preserving these areas will be good for the community in the long run. And so you can think, for example, of having better recreation and how that can lead to better health. That's just one example, and there are many others. There's some researchers at Fresno State that have been using this as well to work with some NGOs in the community. Okay, I want to be respectful of our time and give time for questions. So, and I suspect that my poor stormwater calculator is stuck. So I will check one more time to see if it got unstuck. And it's unfortunately not unstuck. So I'm sorry about that, guys. As I said, it worked this morning, but it got shy here. Although I'm in LA, it shouldn't be shy to work. So I'll then really aim to wrap this up so that we have time for questions. As I said, these are just a few tools. These are our more geospatial tools. We have many others that are not just geospatial, but focus on in terms of indices of health and well-being. It's really kind of neat, and sort of what I want to do is to let you know that these resources are available, that I'm available as a resource to you here in the state, that Laura is here, and that we particularly like to connect with the CivicSpark folks. We've done it before and it's been very rewarding, and I want to just really honor and congratulate all of you for being in the program, for the work that you're doing in communities, for the opportunities, and always keep EPA in mind. And we're really here to help each other. So I'll stop there. Laura, do you have any concluding remarks?
Yeah. So as we were saying, we want to use what we can at EPA to help, and we see the local level as where a lot is needed and where we can play a big role in terms of making connections. So if you're interested in being connected with a local EPIC program, please let me know. If you think the university you come from should have an EPIC program, we're doing some work with the California State University system to put on some workshops that's going to be open to all California universities. So we should touch base on that as well. Thanks for your time.
Great. So I will ask some of the questions that came in. We had several questions around the Enviro Atlas map. Is that GIS or Esri based for the map?
Yes, it's ArcGIS, but it's designed to work on any computer browser, so you don't need to have that in order to make it work. You can, if you have ArcGIS or using Esri, you can upload your own data from that to overlay it.
Okay, and are the layers available for download in shapefile format at all? Is any of that available?
I know it's downloadable, and I'm pretty sure that they're in shapefiles. And if you want to email me, let me put my email address here at the end for me and Laura. I can connect you to our development team, and they can provide that for you. The website has like a download section that provides information on how to download and what kinds of things you can download.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, do either of you have information on the EPA's portfolio manager tool? Or any familiarity?
I don't.
Laura,
I could probably get it. I don't have it.
I think that's the Energy Star one. I think that's what they're talking about. And I don't have information on that, but we can get it for you, definitely.
Okay, thanks. So it sounds like you both have great access to networks across the state and across the country. Is there a single place or database that fellows can go to in order to learn from some of the best practice sharing that you're seeing?
I strongly recommend, at least in terms of the Educational Partnerships Innovation Community, there's a website that you can go to that will connect you in terms of some of the tools and the uses, case studies and that sort of thing. Is that what the question's about? Because we have EPA websites that they can go to for that.
Okay. So yeah, it might be more geared toward case
we can send links. We can send you links for all that afterwards that you can share with the fellows.
Great, that would be great. Okay.
I'd also say that in that GWiz and the MWiz databases are case studies, best management practices as well. So you can definitely go in and say that you're just focused on finding great examples, then it can pull those specifically. If you're looking at materials management or green infrastructure projects.
Okay, great.
It also it makes me think that maybe if some of the fellows are interested in other potential tools that we have, if there's areas that they want to know, then they can send that to you, and Jose and I can look that up and provide you with more information on those things as well, if that's of interest.
Okay, great, thank you. So it was mentioned how Fresno worked with the EPA to classify land cover at, I think, 1 meter resolution rather than the 30 meter satellite resolution. How did this partnership happen?
Yeah. So to be clear, for some reason, when we first started doing community levels, and I was not part of that, but they used some criteria to pick areas around the country. And we only started with 10 around the whole country. And I do not know why they chose Fresno, but they did. And so that information is there. What I've been trying to do now is just find, are there ways to partner with local governments to do mapping of other places. And EPA, our folks have tended to sort of be doing it on our own just because we have high quality assurance data requirements for the agency. But my goal is to find ways to partner better with local governments or with county governments to do this at a more accelerated rate and in partnership. So, for example, the county of Sonoma has a vegetation map. And so we've been trying to convert that to our EnviroAtlas layers because they did the entire county. And if that works, that's a great example of taking something that had been done for a county and converting it. So I'm hoping for other examples of that. And if people are interested in working on this, please do reach out to me because this is an ongoing interest.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Laura. You mentioned that you were formerly a tool advisor. Could you give us a little bit more information about what that entails?
Yeah, it's taking the tools that Jose talked about and actually bringing them into the university context through the Educational Partnerships for Innovation in Communities. So how to get the tools out into the community to be used and using students and faculty. So for example, and Jose did this much more than I did, going into a classroom and sharing the EnviroAtlas tool and then having the students use that in order to address issues that are of concern to the community partner.
Great, thank you.
That answers the question?
I think so, yes. Are there, well, so the fellows that are on the call can definitely bring a lot of these tools mentioned back to their communities, but are there other resources or online trainings about how local governments can utilize these resources?
God, that's a really good question.
And that's kind of been an ongoing challenge, which is why we've been, working through it with universities, because it's not just the students at the universities, it's the faculty from the courses that are involved in it. So by going out and training the university and faculty, then they can train the next group of students, and they're an anchor institution that's there to provide assistance to the cities and to the communities. It's something we've been grappling with. Jose, do you have more you want to add?
I would just add that I think we don't have what the fellow is asking, and it would be great if we did. We have an office that focuses on communities. We focus on communities in different ways, and I think that we haven't created sort of a one-stop shop focused particularly on local governments where it's all compiled. I think we tend to do it by topic area, say Superfund or brownfields, rather than putting it all together. We do work with the Local Government Commission, of course, who you all know, and partner with them. But I think that's a really good good question in terms of how we can be a better resource for local governments.
Great. So that sort of leads into the final question, because we have to wrap up in a couple minutes. But what are your asks for the fellows? How would you suggest that they bring these tools and resources back to their communities?
Sure. So I'll cover the science tools, and then Laura can talk about building EPIC partnerships. My ask is that if it's of interest to you, or if you're working on a project where you think you might benefit from a tool, or you don't know but you're interested, to reach out to me, because I'd love to talk with you and explore whether we have something. My goal is to be able to put something in your hands that's useful, so that we can also learn about whether it is useful and how we can tweak it. So my ask is, if any of these interest you, great, let me know. If you didn't hear something, but you're working on an environmental type project where you think, gosh, it would be helpful if I had X or Y, it would be great to know that, and then we can explore whether there's something we can provide. So that's my ask.
Okay, and I guess my ask is, if you're interested in connecting up with the local EPIC program to see if there's a way of having some kind of synergy with your work, please let me know.
Yeah, that we have had fellows in the past work with EPIC students. Is there a list of schools and programs that are participating?
There is, and that's on the epic.org, epicn.org site, and I'll send you the link to that.
Okay, great.
But
Thank you.
It's basically just epicn.org.
Okay, great.
Network.
Okay, so it's 11, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you both so much for your time today and for joining us. And as a reminder, we'll be sharing out both of your contact information with all the fellows after I end the webinar today. And then we'll also share links to a number of the resources that you both mentioned. So thank you, everybody, for participating, and thank you both, Jose and Laura.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Take care.